Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
What's going on, good people? You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown, and it is Motivation Monday. Yes, we made it through the weekend. We are here at another week, and if you are listening, God has blessed you. He's opened your eyes, and He has allowed you to live to see another day. That is grace, and for some of us, it's mercy. But I just want to thank you for joining me here on the Afternoon Praise. It's where we help people reach their defining level of success by what? Helping you discover and develop your gifts. So now, over the last 2 weeks, we've been building something deeper than motivation. We talked about preparation. We talked about culture. We talked about leadership. We talked about governance. We talked about sustainability. We talked about emotional sustainability and organizational health. But this week, we're going even deeper, people. We are talking about systems. Yes, we are moving into systems because many people are not failing because they lack talent. They are failing because they lack structure. And many people are building businesses, creating content, launching brands, growing ministries, and leading teams, but they are doing it with no workflow, no process, no operational structure, and no repeatable systems. And guess what? Eventually, burnout appears, inconsistency appears, exhaustion appears, emotional overload appears, and guess what? Then chaos appears. So because effort is carrying what systems were supposed to support. That's today's conversation. You're running on effort, not systems. Let's look at Exodus 18, verse 17 and 18. It said, "And Moses' father-in-law said unto him, The things that thou doest is not good. Thou wilt surely wear away both thou and this people that is with thee. For this thing is too heavy for thee. Thou art not able to perform it thyself alone." See, Jethro, he recognized something Moses did not. Moses had vision, he had a calling, he had leadership, and he had responsibility, but he lacked operational structure. And many people today are suffering from the same problem. Not a lack of passion, not a lack of purpose, a lack of system. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Go tell a family member, go tell a friend. Tune in today because we are going to unpack something that's going to change your life forever.
Join us on this heavenly journey, one song at a time, Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Yeah, I know I can't sing. But man, you got to sing to yourself sometimes. You got to make yourself happy. You can't worry about what people think and what they don't think, all right? Because it's you're making yourself happy. But today we are talking about you're running on effort, not systems. Let's talk about effort is a volatile operating system. Most people are operating on effort, and effort is unstable. Effort changes with mood, sleep, stress, emotions, energy, and pressure. That's why some days people feel unstoppable and other days they feel completely drained. Because effort is tied to human fluctuation. Systems are different. Systems are designed to create consistency regardless of emotional state. That's why systems matter. Because systems are what? Repeatable, they are structured, they are sustainable, and they are dependable. Effort can create movement temporarily, but systems, they sustain movement long term. Many people are trying to build sustainable futures on temporary emotional energy. That's dangerous because eventually emotions shift. And when emotions shift, everything collapses with them. That's why systems are so important. Systems protect the vision from your bad days. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
You're riding the waves of faith and grace on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and this is Motivation Monday, and I want to thank you for joining me. Today, let's talk about the cognitive tax of improvisation. Many people are mentally exhausted because nothing in life is systemized. Every day they wake up reacting, improvising, adjusting emotionally, trying to figure everything out again. That creates cognitive overload. Research around decision fatigue shows the brain loses efficiency when forced to make too many repetitive decisions constantly. Every unsystemized task drains mental energy. That means figuring out schedules daily, deciding workflows emotionally, constantly reacting to problems, operating without structure. This slowly exhausts the mind. The issue is not always discipline. Sometimes the issue is operational chaos. Many people are tired because their brain never get relief from constant improvisation. Systems freeze repetitive decisions that protect mental energy for creativity, leadership, strategy, vision, and execution. Systems protects cognitive capacity. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and this is Motivation Monday, and we're talking about you're running on effort, not systems. You built a workflow around survival. Many people think they are operating strategically, but they are actually operating reactively. They build workflows around urgency, pressure, emotional reaction, last-minute decisions, and crisis management. Their day is controlled by interruptions instead of intentional structure. That creates survival-based leadership. And survival mode drains creativity because reactive environments force the brain into constant stress response. Many people are not building systems, they are surviving chaos. Now I'm gonna say that again. Many people are not building systems, they are surviving chaos. That's why every day feels emotionally heavy. Nothing flows predictably. Everything depends on memory, urgency, emotional energy, horrific effort. And eventually, people confuse survival with productivity. But chaos is not productivity, and movement is not always progress. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're tuned in to the Afternoon Praise on this Motivation Monday. Let's talk about this. Tools are not systems, people. Tools are not systems. One of the biggest misunderstandings today is confusing tools with systems. People think buying software, downloading apps, using AI, purchasing equipment automatically create operational maturity. No, tools are not systems. Tools help you execute. A system creates structure, workflow, repeatability, governance, and consistency. A camera is a tool. A content production workflow is a system. AI is a tool. An operation and process of how AI gets used constantly is a system. Many people keep buying tools while remaining operational disorganized because tools cannot replace structure. Tools help you execute. Systems help you sustain. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
This is Motivation Monday here on the Afternoon Praise. You're tuned in to Wave Radio, and we are talking about you're running on efforts, not systems. Let's look at Moses. Moses was the bottleneck. If you look at Exodus 18, it reveals something very powerful. Moses was carrying too much operational weight personally. He became the system, and Jethro recognized the danger immediately. Again, let's look at Exodus 18, verses 17 and 18. And Moses' father-in-law said unto him, The thing that thou doest is not good. Thou will surely wear away. That's structural exhaustion. Moses had to become the bottleneck, and everything depended on him. Every decision, every judgment, every process, every outcome. That's dangerous leadership, because if everything depends on one person, the system cannot scale. Many leaders today are exhausted because they made themselves the operational center of everything. But leadership maturity is not about carrying everything personally. Leadership maturity is building something that protects capacity. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Let's talk about the founder dependency trap. Many leaders think being needed everywhere is proof of importance, but often it is proof of operational weakness. If every decision depends on you, every problem comes to you, every process stops without you, every emergency requires your involvement, you do not have a scalable system. You have dependency, and dependency creates exhaustion. Many founders unknowingly become the single point of failure inside their organization. That means if they stop, everything stops. That's dangerous, people, because growth eventually exposes operational dependency. Healthy systems reduce dependency on emotional heroics. You can't be a hero to everybody and to everything. That's why strong organizations are designed to function consistently, even when leadership is not physically present every moment. And if everything depends on you, it cannot grow beyond you. And you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Bringing the sounds of heaven 24/7, Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise here on Wave Radio. Let's talk about systems reduce emotional decision making. See, many people make decisions emotionally because nothing in their life is structured. Every day becomes reactive, inconsistent, emotionally driven, unpredictable. And emotionally driven leadership creates unstable environments. Systems reduce emotional decision making because systems create predictable workflow, establish expectations, operational consistency, and repeatable outcomes. That's powerful psychologically, because emotional exhaustion often comes from constant uncertainty. The brain performs better inside structured environments. That's why routines, workflows, and process matter. They reduce chaos. Chaos drains emotional energy. Systems create stability during emotional fluctuation. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and we're talking about you're running on efforts, not systems. Let's look at predictability creates trust. People trust consistency more than intensity. Anybody can have a strong day, a motivated week, an emotional burst, temporary momentum, but predictability systems create long-term trust, because people trust what behaves consistently, what communicates clearly, what operates reliably, what produces stable outcomes. That applies to leadership, businesses, ministry, relationships, and teams. Predictability creates emotional safety, and emotional safety creates stronger environments. That's why operational consistency matters so much. Healthy systems remove unnecessary surprises, and environments with fewer surprises, guess what it creates? Greater trust, healthier communication, stronger collaboration, and more confidence. Predictability is a trust asset. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Let's talk about your talent is fighting your chaos. Yes, it is. Many gifted people are exhausted because their talent is constantly fighting their disorganization. They have vision, they have creativity, intelligence, leadership ability, and high capacity, but no structure. So their energy gets consumed by remembering everything, reacting constantly, fixing avoidable problems, recovering from chaos, and rebuilding repeatedly. That's exhaustion, people. That get exhausting. And many people mistake operational chaos for spiritual warfare. Yes, I did say that. No, sometimes the issue is simple. Lack of structure. Without structure, your talent spends more time suffering and surviving your environment than building your future. That's why systems matter, because systems protect capacity. Structure protects talent from chaos. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise on this Motivation Monday, and we are talking about you're running on efforts, not systems. Let's look at what high performers depend on. They depend on systems. Yes, high performers depend on systems. The highest performing organizations in the world rely heavily on systems. Airlines use checklists. Hospitals use surgical protocols. The military use operational systems. Toyota built an entire production philosophy around repeatable process management. McDonald's turned consistency into a global operational machine. Why? Because systems create reliability, consistency, scalability, quality control, and predictability. Excellence becomes dangerous when it only exists during someone's emotional highs. Healthy organizations create systems where excellence becomes repeatable. That's operation maturity. Great organizations do not rely on emotional heroics. They rely on systems. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
If you got a shout out or request, hit me up and I got you. But let's get back into our systems. You're running on efforts, not systems. Let's look at structure protects capacity. Many people think systems restrict freedom, but healthy systems actually protect freedom, because structure protects energy, focus, creativity, mental clarity, and execution. Without structure, everything competes for attention equally. That creates mental overload. Systems help prioritize, though. Workflows, it help prioritize responsibility, communication, decision-making, and execution. Healthy systems reduce unnecessary friction. That's why structure matters. Because without structure, high-capacity people become emotionally overwhelmed by low-level operational chaos. System protects your mental bandwidth. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. You cannot scale improvisation. Improvisation may work temporarily, but it does not scale. Eventually, growth exposes operational weaknesses. That's why many organizations collapse during expansion. Not because growth was bad, because the infrastructure was weak. People often try to scale businesses, ministries, brands, and leadership without scalable systems underneath them. That creates instability, because effort cannot permanently carry expanding complexity. Growth increases pressure on workflows, communication, structure, accountability, leadership systems, and eventually improvisation collapse under the weight of expansion. You cannot scale chaos sustainably. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Noah had a blueprint. Noah did not just have faith, he had structure. Let's look at Genesis 6, verse 14. Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Room shall thou make in the ark, and shall pitch it within and without the pitch. God gave dimensions, measurements, orders, blueprint. The ark survived because it was built according to structural integrity, not emotional effort, not improvisation, not random construction. Many people today want big visions, sustainable growth, long-term success, but they are building without blueprints. That's dangerous because vision without structure creates fragile outcomes. Systems are blueprint for sustainability. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Systems protect vision from your bad days. We all have bad days. I don't care who you are. We all have bad days. See, everybody has difficult days, emotional days, low energy days, stressful season. That's human. But systems protect vision from emotional inconsistency. Healthy systems ensure communication still happens, workflows continue, responsibilities move forward, and structure remains stable. That's why systems matter, because systems are depersonalized excellence. They create consistency beyond emotion. Without systems, everything depends on motivation, mood, memory, emotional energy, and eventually inconsistency damage momentum. Systems protect the vision from leaders' bad days. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and we are talking about you're running on effort, not systems, on this Motivation Monday. See, stop being the engine. Many leaders have unknowingly become the engine of everything. Every process requires them. Every workflow needs them. Every solution depends on them. That's not sustainable leadership. That's operational dependency. You were never designed to personally carry institutional weight forever. At some point, you must transition from operator to architect, from reaction to structure, from emotional execution to systematic leadership, because systems create sustainability, and sustainable leaderships require operational maturity. Stop trying to be the engine, become the engineer. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and I want to thank you for joining me today on this Motivation Monday. Yes, and like I always say, I celebrate you because I know you are accomplishing what you set out to accomplish weeks ago. Even yesterday, even the day before. I know we go through hard times, but I celebrate you for just picking yourself back up and just keep pushing and moving forward. But let me leave you with this. 1 Corinthians 14, verse 40. Let all things be done decently and in order. Order matters, people. Structure matters. Systems matter. Many people are exhausted not because they lack purpose, but because they lack operational structure. They are trying to carry organizational weight, leadership responsibility, creative execution, business growth, and ministry expansion. with effort alone, and eventually effort collapsed where systems should have existed. This week, we begin learning system sustains what effort starts, because motivation fluctuates, emotions change, energy varies, pressure rises, but healthy systems create sustainability, consistency, predictability, stability, and scalability. If you are exhausted, do not just ask for more motivation. Ask for, where is the structural weakness? Ask what process is missing. Ask what workflow needs to be built. Ask what dependency needs to be removed. Because many people do not need another motivational speech. They need a blueprint. And remember this, people. Effort may start movement, but systems sustain movement. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown, and I thank you for joining me today. I will talk to you tomorrow on Triumph Tuesday. I am out of here. Peace.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.